Sameh, I'm excited to catch up with you here at Fyuz. We're halfway through the show, and I feel like the conversation has shifted. For the past 5 years, we've been really focused on the nuts and bolts work of opening up interfaces. I feel like we've reached a point in time where that's deployment ready, so now the focus has shifted to how do we leverage that to do things that are new and innovative. But what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
This is absolutely true. I think the denial of that Open RAN is not going to work is gone, right? We are now in reality. Open RAN is here to stay, and I argue that we are now in the Open RAN advanced, era, right? We are looking at how not only we make sure that deployments can scale up, right? So that's why we've been working with a lot of organizations building labs and supporting. Like we have this Valor lab recently where we are helping new players come in, and we tell them how you can scale up in an AT&T network or a Verizon network or a entity Docomo network. So we're now talking about the scaling. How we're gonna scale, how we can support the scaling, right? But we're also looking at advanced features, right? How we're gonna get next level, building application. Because RAN is good, everybody likes it, but we need to make money from it. Operators want to monetize that. So now they're talking about monetization, apps development. So that takes us into, for VIAVI, in a different area, because we're looking now at how we can emulate a real network so that you can build apps on top of that. So I see that we are in the ORAN advanced, like ORAN 1.5, right? This is what I believe that, and the energy here in this conference is showing that the discussion is moving in this direction.
So I sat through a panel yesterday that was largely about interoperability testing and integration processes. And I guess I would look to you for a bit of a level set or a reality check. This idea of plug and play and any to any. I guess from my perspective, telecom networks are not plug and play. That's reductive. And any to any, I mean, sure, you could do that, but is there a compelling reason to do that? I'm not so sure.
Eventually you want to do that, because I think that's where innovation comes in. You want to be able to get more innovative and get the innovation into your network. So that's the plan. But I think, let's be real, exactly what you said. I think we're going to see this kind of ecosystem. Vodafone have done it with this kind of ecosystem. AT&T is doing it with this kind of ecosystem. Deutsche Telecom is doing, entity Docomo. And I think one of the things we're working with TAPE is how to bring these blueprints, right, and provide some kind of, maybe not all any to any, but these are different parts. But I would argue that even on the open interface like open front haul, I mean, in reality, yes, you have a lot of radio component, but at the end of the day, the chipset is only 3 or 4 chipsets, right? So I believe at some point, if we can bring them and go to this level where we have these chipsets, tested in any configuration, eventually you will be able to go to almost a plug-in. We're not there yet. I think it can be done.
Yeah, so, I think you referenced this, but VIAVI's focus on, real world network testing. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you're leveraging digital twins to sort of iterate in a virtual world and then accelerate kind of business outcomes and value in the real world?
Right, so what VIAVI, I mean, think about us, VIAVI, we have always been like the flight simulator for the network, right? We bring in, testing emulation so that in the lab you can actually test and we can scale it up. Now we need to take this flight simulator to the next level where you actually bring in real data from the network, which VIAVI has. This data becomes really important here, because if you want to build apps, if you want to use AI to actually fill the automation is going to be key. This data has to be as realistic as possible, orchestrated into these digital twin engines, that your new flight simulator, but flight simulator with real data, right? So that's what VIAVI is focusing on. We are building this RAN scenario generation where you come and say, I'm going to build this open RAN, maybe for a private network where we're using, drones in a certain area. There are this kind of applications, this kind of IoT devices, and you can emulate that, bringing real data using AI to generate these kind of realistic scenario and test them and see, can I scale? How much latency will have? So these are the kind of things that VIAVI is trying to do.
So based on your conversations with your customers, existing and potential, What are you hearing about the RAN intelligent controller? I haven't seen a huge amount of emphasis at the show on that, but I have heard a lot of talk around, programmability. So if your goal is to have a programmable network, your RIC is kind of your entry point for that application ecosystem. But what's the breakdown on the testing side?
So there has been, I said we were focusing initially on making O-RAN work first, right? So the interoperability, all the open interfaces, I think open front haul. So we kind of passed this point. Now the next step, actually you're right. So RIC, and there is two things, the real-time, the non-real-time RIC, and also we have the SMOs that are providing, non-real-time, right? So I think this is what the discussion is. In fact, we are seeing interest from governments like NTIA, that I think they're talking about the next NOFO 3, where it's going to be focused on these kind of applications. So I think we are moving into this area, and we are seeing collaboration ecosystem working between VIAVI as RIC testing, and we're building these digital twin operators who have the data and are interested in building the SMO layers. We have the RIC platforms, work coming together. So this is the discussion is moving in right now, and I think we are trying to provide the framework for how you're going to test an app, how you're going to validate an app, right? Because we want to open it for the community, and TIP can play a very important role in becoming the neutral community arbitrator. If you want to build an app, come to this platform and we can validate that for you. Conflict management, you have many apps, how they're gonna work in this. So there is a lot of development in this area, and I think AI is gonna become a very important piece there.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about AI. I think still nascent in terms of AI in the RAN, and RAN as a platform for AI that can be consumed externally. But how do you think about testing this? I mean, it seems like, I know test automation is the watchword, but it seems like you need AI to test AI,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Think about it. As I said, you're used to use synthetic data for testing, but we have now real data, right? But sometimes you need to extend this to create scenarios that you've never seen before. Most of the time, lab testing, you go in and test in the lab, and then you deploy, you still find problems, right? Because some of the exotic scenarios that are in the field was not tested in the lab, right? What if we do the same? We bring in the field into the lab, use AI to create completely, scenarios that you didn't see before. So use Gen AI to use the data from different sets and create new kind of set of data that are realistic enough and test against that. So it gives you more completeness and more confidence that you are ready for deployment.
Yeah, so give us some summary thoughts here. I think we're aligned that we've kind of gotten through the knothole on the interface part of Open RAN. So when we talk about innovation, what does that look like in the real world?
Right, so the good news is that I think operators right now are at the forefront of Open RAN. I think they're always were sitting on the side watching. Now they are taking the lead and saying, okay, we are deploying, we are working on that. So now there is different kind of questions. Are we going to make money from it? How are we going to monetize that? Where are we taking this with 6G, for example, right? So I think this is a good place to be for Open RAN. I think this is the next evolution. How are we going to bring AI, data, the community together, with testing labs and field deployments, and bring these together and start building blueprints that people can use all over the world. The good news is that we're not seeing this only in the US and Europe. We have been now seeing opening labs in Philippines and Indonesia and Singapore. This is where it's trickling down, right? So it's good news. It's good news for the O-RAN community. It's good news for innovation. This is moving in the right direction.
Excellent. Well, Sameh, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective with me at Fyuz.
Thank you.